The NPPL was once the heartbeat of paintball, but just as the league started hitting its stride, power struggles, bankruptcies, and some shady business practices led to its downfall. This is the story of how the most iconic paintball league fully imploded on itself. In the early 90s, paintball was on the rise. Local and regional events like the Great Western Series drew in players from all over the country. It's where you'd see teams like the Ironmen and Aftershock. But even as the sport's popularity was exploding, paintball was still lacking a unified professional series. There was no definitive way to crown the best of the best. That was until 1992, when a secret meeting took place that brought together paintball's most influential personalities. The meeting's main focus was on escalating entry fees, high paint cost, and deteriorating tournament quality. As the meeting closed, a new league was created, the National Professional Paintball League. In a smart move at the time, the NPPL decided to use the expertise of guys like Jerry Braun, who was a tournament promoter and had organized large tournaments before. The creation of the NPPL was an important step in bringing together this fractured sport. However, like most couples that get married in Vegas at 2 a.m. by drunk Elvis, the honeymoon lasted, not that long. It's 1999 and the NPPL is well underway. The league, which had started out as a league being run by players, was now being neglected by those players, and were faced with a setback when they quit paying taxes and the state of New York dissolved the company. Promoters were still there setting up the tournaments and promoting tournaments as the NPPL, yet there technically was no NPPL. Things came to a head in January of 2001 when the NPPL tried to take back the reins from promoters. The league was upset with promoters over the quality of some of the tournaments from the year before. This pissed off promoters because they felt like they'd picked up the slack from the leadership failings at the NPPL. I'm gonna do more work than I should, and then you're gonna come after me for not doing more? The meeting resulted in the formation of paintball sports promotions by those promoters, making them stronger and making sure they can't get pushed around in the future. Although still no formal agreement was reached, both the NPPL and the PSP would move forward in the 2001 season, still with a fragile alliance. Tensions resurfaced quickly though at the second event of the season in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Tom Cole, then president of the NPPL, faced with pitchforks from players and upset promoters, in a bold move proposed a steering committee consisting of team representatives to help evaluate and plan the restructuring. After that meeting, NPPL Vice President Chuck Hedge would actually form NPPL Incorporated, and Tom Cole would step aside, allowing Hedge to become the new NPPL president.
How do you guys feel about going into tomorrow?
We're pretty stoked actually. We haven't lost a game. Most we've lost is 5 bodies. Hopefully we're gonna take it again, take the title, win all. How many games are there? 16, something like that.
In 2003, the NPPL and the PS experienced yet another breakup. Facing its demise, the NPPL found a lifeline in Jed Green, one of the owners of WDP, who also happened to bring in bagfuls of money and plans to get on TV. Green would end up forming Pure Promotions, which would take the place of the PSP and then run all of those NPPL tournament operations. Of all of the people in the industry, Jed and WDP were a perfect partnership for the NPPL, having introduced the world to Hyperball just 8 years previously and running some of the best tournaments in the world. They fit together really well.
One of the things we wanted to accomplish with the circuit this year was to take the sport mainstream, bring it to mainstream venues, promote the game at the highest level, bring in spectators, bring in film crews, make the players superstars. That's what the league's all about.
In a bold move, the NPPL announced the Super 7 series, completely ditching 10-man that the league was founded on. Meanwhile, the PSP was set to start its own season with a 5-man, 10-man, and its new xball format. And just 10 years ago, there was no National Pro Series. And now we have 2 competing leagues, well technically 3 if you count the upcoming NXL, and there's just no way that paintball can sustain that many leagues. The NPPL is still committed to their original goal of bringing us all under one roof, but yeah, something's gotta give. In 2003, NPPL made a dramatic shift by hosting its first major tournament in Huntington Beach. the first Super 7 tournament set a new standard. They had huge bleachers, a VIP area, live music, food trucks were all over the place. However, the absence of top teams like the Ironmen and Aftershock, who opted to play in the newly formed NXL, really again highlighted the ongoing fragmentation of the sport. Shortly after Huntington Beach, the first PSP tournament with its new xball format took place in New Orleans. And like many paintball tournaments, this one included swamp-like conditions. And, you know, just don't have the goddamn tournaments in swamps. PSP Mardi Gras also marked the debut of the National Paintball League. And no, not the one we play now, it's actually totally different, it's just the same name. The original NXL was a pro-only xball league that required teams to purchase a franchise. And just like the NPPL, its main goal was getting on TV. Despite a deal with one of TV's most exciting top players in Dick Clark. Yeah, Dick Clark.
3, 2, 1, happy 1999!
Yeah, that guy, Dick Clark. It was always kind of weird. I mean, nobody knew who he was. And even in 2003, I mean, the dude was 72 years old. It's like, oh, exciting, but it's just weird. But there was, no TV coverage that year. Even worse, teams were locked into playing in the NXL and prevented from playing any other leagues. That's why we didn't see teams like Ironman and Aftershock in the NPPL. Meanwhile, the PSP had its own pro-ish division called D1 xball, which was mainly made up of teams not playing in the NXL, like Strange, Nasty, or Smoke all played in that very first tournament. While teams like Dynasty and the Naughty Dogs still kinda weren't sure about xball, but at World Cup, the final event of the PSP season, Dynasty, Naughty Dogs, and Russian Legion all made the jump over to xball. So in just 1 year, paintball went from one pro 10-man series to a pro 10-man series, pro 7-man, and then 2 pro xball leagues. This split made it even harder for the NPPL to achieve its final goal of unifying pro paintball. Pros were now scattered across different leagues, and top teams like the Oakland Assassins and the Ironmen were being forced to play exclusively in the NXL. I mean, no one knew who the best teams were. There was always this speculation that the NXL teams were probably the best. I mean, they played the most amount of points, they practiced the most, they played this new fast game. So what would happen if Miami Effect actually came over and played in the NPPL? Surely they'd win, right? The NPPL went from dirt abandoned fields to artificial turf at NFL stadiums, really a stark contrast to those dusty remote locations of the past. This change was a part of a broader effort to kind of elevate the sport's profile and appeal to a mainstream audience, really raising the hopes that paintball would finally go mainstream. I mean, really though, guys, before the NPPL had this Super 7 series, I mean, bloody knees and elbows and palms were the norm at any paintball field across the country. I mean, we were playing on, hard-packed fucking dirt, baby. And then the NPPL set that new standard with turf. And it took a little bit, but within a few years, AstroTurf, that artificial turf, started popping up at all local fields. The start of the 2004 season saw the NPPL airing its 2003 season on Fox Sports Net. Thanks to substantial funding by Pure Promotions, the television exposure and quality was a significant milestone, demonstrating how far paintball had come in just a short time. Nonetheless, the competitive landscape was shifting again. Breaking contracts and giving the finger to the NXL, NXL teams began participating in NPPL tournaments under different names. Miami Effect, for instance, played the Tampa 2004 NPPL tournament, but had to rebrand themselves Infamous because they didn't own that Miami Effect name.
The decision was based, had nothing to do with animosity. It had nothing to do with, one league is better than the other. It's just, we just really felt like we were being held back from, showing what we can play, helping out our sponsors. It's just overall performance-wise, we just want to get out there and have a good time. Paintball has not got to the point where any one person can tell one, no, you can't go play anywhere else.
And since they broke their NXL contracts by playing in another league, the entire Infamous roster got the boot from Miami Effect. But honestly, who cares? I mean, they just steamrolled through the first 2 NPPL tournaments they played. And if winning back-to-back is wrong, I don't want to be right. More NXL teams would follow Miami FX's lead and ended up joining the NPPL that 2004 season, like the Oakland Assassins and Aftershock. By 2006, the NXL had finally collapsed, and many of its teams had made the way over to play in the PSP Pro Division. A few more made it over to the NPPL, but the year before, the NPPL actually instated the relegation system that required teams to win the Semi-Pro Division in order to play the Pro Division. That year, Dynasty and Joy Division had a huge rivalry, really kind of fueled by some sketchy calls and play that really kind of led Joy Division to nearly quit the NPPL.
In the end, it was pretty much a bloodbath. Dudes were shot, people were running around. I know I had shot a dude before that, and they might have shot our dude before that. But at this point, everyone's gonna fight till the bitter end.
That year I actually took this photo of Greenspan in San Diego after, I don't know, one of the Dynasty final matches. I mean, they played the best out of 3, so it was one of those. 2007 seemed like a new dawn for the NPPL. But it was the beginning of the end. A long-rumored sale of the league was finally confirmed, setting off more uncertainty in tournament paintball. NPPL Inc. that Chuck Hench started was sold to Pacific Paintball LLC, which also acquired the West Coast League, the XPSL.
Yes! No cussing on the field. Give me a flag. What?
Sean Walker, president of the XPSL, also took the reins of the NPPL. What happens when a thriving league changes hands overnight? Well, speculation and doubt. Despite the skepticism, 2007 miraculously went off without a hitch, and 2008 started on a high note. But in hindsight, we should have been more aware of the warning signs, like when Pure Promotions took off or when WDP decided to rebrand itself Angel Paintball Sports. Little did we know these were the first cracks in the foundation of the league. Making things worse, the 2007-2008 financial crisis struck hard, severely impacting sponsorship and the viability of these large-scale tournaments. By December 2008, less than a year after Pacific Paintball's acquisition of the league, the NPPL found itself in dire financial straits, with only weeks left to pay back millions to creditors and no other options. The company filed Chapter 7 bankruptcy and was forced to liquidate all their assets. Even worse, that call was coming from inside the house when rumors of financial mismanagement started surfacing. Much of the blame was directed at Sean Walker and his misappropriation of $100,000. Brandon Lambertson, who played for Infamous at the time and actually might still be playing 10-man with Infamous. Either way, he wrote this in December of 2008. One event last year, Sean ordered around 20 extra portable tower lights after his event manager told him not to. An event manager he later fired due to incompetence. At $100 average rental price a day for approximately 4 days, that's $8,000 wasted because those extra lights never made it out of the boneyard. While these missteps certainly aren't the only reason for the NPPL's failure, they certainly helped contribute to its decline. 2009, in an effort to rejuvenate the league, Chuck Hench returned to the scene of the crime, teaming up with Tom Cole to form the USPL. The USPL was designed to pick up where the NPPL left off, but with a vision more closely aligned with the league's original ethos, a league for the players by the players. Sure, let's get on TV, but let's not make it the main goal. By the second event of the year, the USPL had actually reclaimed that NPPL name. That's why during this time you often see the league referred to as the USPL/NPPL or just the USPL or just the NPPL. But it was really only one tournament as USPL and the NPPL the rest of the time. But despite their efforts, the PSP had solidified its position as the premier league, attracting more teams and garnering far more industry support. The USPL still had great teams like Dynasty, Impact, Damage, X Factor, they all played the USPL, but it was clear that the league no longer held its past sway. Most players just kind of simply wanted to play xball rather than 7-man. By the close of the 2012 season, rumors again were circulating about the NPPL's potential demise. The league, however, managed to extend its lifespan a little bit longer, changing hands once again. This time, Paintball Promotions Incorporated took the reins with a very familiar face in Sean Walker. Unfortunately, this transition backfired as key teams like Impact, Damage, and Excessive would abandon the NPPL and stick just with the PSP, showing exactly why you don't bring back the guy that everybody blamed for the failure in the first place. I mean, I don't know why it was going to work the second time. And then in November 2013, the NPPL officially ceased operations, marking an end to an era. Following the NPPL's collapse, Sean Walker tried again. I mean, for the third time? I mean, really? He created the APL, the American Paintball League, which was all 5-man. So it was just 5-man, no 7-man, 10-man, no xball, just 5-man. Surprisingly though, it became the biggest league ever. No, it didn't. It failed, just like all the other times he tried. What do you think's gonna happen? You know, we've had all these leagues come and go. We've seen the NPPL, the PSP, we have the NXL in like version 2. What's gonna happen now? Is the NXL gonna go away? We gonna have the NPPL come back?
All we are is dust in the wind, dude.